So, Bill, we had an amazing conversation with Vicki Robin last week, and we kept going because she was dropping some gems. So this week, we've got part 2 of the episode. Are you excited about it?
Of course. I mean, we talk with Vicki about philosophical issues or philosophical issues in the FI movement, and we talk about enoughness in this episode. Again, some more about the coming of aging, and then we flip the script on your money or your life and really talk about your life or your money, which may be the more appropriate title for her work. Let's stay tuned and hear some more from Vicki Robin.
Enoughness is a spiritual practice. It asks you to be aware of the flow of life energy through your life. It's not normative and it's not static. And I think it's sometimes perceived as right or wrong. My wonderful brother that I spoke about before, he wants to lavish on his wife and his kids and his grandkids. And he does that. And he doesn't, so his life costs him more than my life by a long shot. But there's fulfillment in everything about that. So that's enoughness.
Well, it seems like in the coming of aging, if you're thinking about the next generation, it is a time of shedding. It is a time of limiting your stuff. I mean, I see it as a big gift if my parents organize their lives and get rid of the stuff that I'm not going to want. It's their stuff. And, you know, organize your finances, organize your estate plan, organize these things that may have been messy in your life so that the next generation doesn't have to fix your problems.
Bingo. The idea of being old, blind, deaf, and not having my mind, but being depressed somehow. That's like, shoot me. So I don't know, really. You're not going to get any good answers from me about this because I'm working on that one. And part of how I work on it is a willingness to die at some point. It's like, okay, at some point I'm going to get a disease and I will not go to the hospital. I will not treat it. It's a way out. Give me morphine and off I go.
Welcome to Catching Up to FI, a podcast on mindset, money, and life for late starters of any age on their journey to financial independence. I'm Bill, and I'm a late starter.
I'm Jackie, and I'm also a late starter, and we're your host. We're here to help you on your journey to financial independence, no matter where you're starting.
We're going to talk to experts, other late starters, and explore topics related to our mission.
Join us as we catch up to FI together. Vicki, so most people's life trajectory, they work for about 20, 30, 40 years, and they're bound to an employer. And you got to cut out sooner, and you got to give these gifts to the world and your philosophical thinking and actually acting on it and being the warrior and all of that. And so I keep thinking a lot about what if the trajectory were different? How different would people view life, and what things would they do different if they didn't have to be tied to the job? And I think that's probably where the financial independence part comes in, because you're doing the things that light you up. You're doing the things that matter to you that probably impacts the world, or at minimum, maybe your community or whatever is important to you. So I don't know, how different do you think this world would be? How old were you when you actually retired?
A ridiculous age.
20s.
I was in my 20s, but you have to know that, I just had a little bitty nest egg, and I met Joe Dominguez, and he explained to me that I could invest that money and live on the income from it. And at that time, I could buy a province of Ontario dollar-denominated bond at 9% interest. So that money threw off enough money for me to live. But you have to understand that back in the 70s, I lived on about $100 a month. So, and I called it an adventure because I was learning how to live without money. I was learning how to, fix a car. I rebuilt the engine of my car. I don't want to do that again, but I built a motorcycle from a box of parts. I grew a half-acre garden with the people I lived with. I learned how to build. I learned I learned how to wiring and plumbing. And it's just like, oh my God, this is the world. It's not just academia. It's not just going to college. So it was exciting for me. I wouldn't want to do it now. I'm very grateful to have enough money to get other people to help me out. Somebody just helped me for 2 hours yesterday and carried things upstairs and downstairs, and it really helped. So, yeah, so I was interested in that because it just didn't make any sense to me to go on the wheel of like selling my intelligence and selling myself to a corporate enterprise to participate in the corporatocracy. Yeah, it's very idealistic and young, but I did it and it was great. And then over time, by hook or by crook, I put together more money. And so I've always had a decent amount of money. And then with Your Money, Your Life and the community, we were committed to giving away all the money that came in from our work. So we gave away a lot of that. And after Joe died and the community broke up, I was like, okay, I'm the author of Your Money, Your Life. And so now I have an income stream from that. So anyway, long story. What did you ask me?
Yeah, well, no, I think you addressed it nicely because I just keep thinking so much about, I retired when I was 49 or whatever, and I guess I didn't think I would feel the way that I feel, that I'm able to do so much more now that I'm not tied down to a job. And I get asked that question all the time. And you definitely have a better way with words than I do, but you just expressed it so great, not just in Your Money or Your Life, but in our conversation today and the things that you're writing about now. And I think I had trouble putting it into words, but I'm just able to have so much more of an impact. And you obviously have too. And I keep thinking, what if more people, right?
Exactly. So here's the deal. I don't think there's any particular virtue in financial independence. I think it makes sense in a society that doesn't necessarily value, it's not necessarily prioritizing your well-being as the job of government. The society has become ever more the job of the whole society is money. And so there's nothing ennobling about it. And so we can imagine a society, and people harken back to the 50s, and there was a lot that was wrong with the 50s, but it was a surprising time in history when there was surplus, there was coming out of a collective effort to win World War II, and it transformed this country. And up until 1972, I think it was, so in the early 70s, there was a sense that a rising tide lifts all boats, everybody getting better together. And so solidarity with your society was the smart move, if you will, because making society better, like I'm still in that consciousness. If I make my community better, if I support the farmers, if I support businesses, my life gets better. If I tried to just fortify my own little complex, grow my own food, if other people aren't growing food, my food doesn't last. So it's the solidarity that's missing that makes us bond with money more than we do with community. Solidarity is still there in the church community. I see it in churches. It's really great. If you have solidarity, which translated through a conservative mind means socialism or communism, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what you feel like when you're at church. You're with people who are for you. And back in the day, it was like people used to spend time visiting the sick. And there was a thing. There was hot dishes. There was these are all manifestations, not like a hot dish is the correct thing, but they're manifestations of a sense of solidarity, that my well-being is associated with the well-being of the people around me. Some people have it in big families. I don't have a big family. So if you imagine a society like that, well, of course you want to keep, it's not like you want to keep working, you want to keep participating. And there's a reward for participating, which is emotional, but also material. So you can support yourself, so you can keep participating. That's what makes sense. We are all valuable to one another. And there's a great pleasure in finding your fit, doing things that you realize, oh, okay, I was made for this. I was made to give this gift or hammer in that nail or play this note. I mean, you feel it when you're in your groove, you're on sort of your destiny line, you feel it. And that's in us. We want to be part of the choir, part of the community, part of the dance. Like, we know this, and yet the opportunity for this is so diminished in the money system. So what people are doing is, okay, fine, I'm going to like handle a money thing and put it behind me, and so I can participate as a human among humans and do things that I love and I'm good at and that help other people. So I don't think financial independence is the ultimate thing. It's sort of a self-defense in a system that doesn't value your life energy.
What you're talking about in participation is the not giving up. And traditional retirement is a point. You know, you work, work, work. Then all of a sudden, just like my mother, she sits at home and watches tennis. She goes to she has a couple of friends, but she stopped trying to make the world different. She stopped really being curious. And, you know, it's that stopping that we go with fire, because we get to the number, but then we don't transition, as Fritz Gilbert talks about, into our next life. And you've done that. You've shown us how to do that. You've reinvented yourself. You continued to participate. You've continued to be relevant on the front edge of the latest topic. And you have left other ones maybe behind to other people. I mean, I think that's critical when we talk about the coming of aging, right?
Yeah. And I think maybe the letting go of the prior positions of responsibility, power, and recognition in society comes as you see an opportunity for something that's more delicious on the horizon. If you're being asked to let go of something that you consider your strong suit, the thing that buys you position and power and respect, that creates activity, that, of course, I have to go to the meetings. I'm the president, not the president of the country. And so I don't know that everybody is going to do it my way at all, but I happen to be most joyful when I'm being creative, most joyful when when I've discovered a trail. I'm like a hound dog. I sniff a trail and then I'm interested in it. So you're calling it curiosity. Yes, curiosity and creativity. And then some sort of psychological, physical, spiritual muscularity in that I want to enact something. I don't want to just think it. I want to get my hands dirty in whatever it is and feel the dimensions of it. And it's hard for me to stay with old things. It's like I might open the way in 3 years, 5 years. Conversation Cafe probably was 2001. Yeah. So maybe about 10 years. And that was like extending it. That was like feeling a responsibility. And that's a good example, too, because number one, I co-created with my friend Susan Partnow and another man, Habib Rose, who passed away pretty much in the middle of it. And Margot Adair and Bill All, there's a bunch of us who were creating it together, excited, 2001. And particularly because Susan was very committed, we got it to the point where we gave it, housed it in another organization that's dedicated to dialogue and deliberation, and worked through, especially credit to Susan, worked through all the details so that they could really own the brand. And so now it's used around the world because we did that legacy work. So it's a good example in my life. With Your Money, Your Life, it's been a sort of hodgepodge of trying to pass it on and then seeing that, oh dear, they're not doing it my way and I like my way better. It was just terrible founder stuff. So, but the fire community, God bless, I was discovering the fire community, I could just totally let go. Not the philosophical part, because the fire community isn't there, really, or the environmental part. Socially Conscious Fire, the group on Facebook, I love those guys. They're really on my groove. I don't know if there's a spiritually conscious fire, but that would also be sort of a groove. But to a large degree, I don't have to uphold it anymore. I'm very blessed that there's so many people upholding the basic teaching. So yeah, until you want something more than what you have, you will never let go. It's like approaching a kid who's grabbed something and you want to get out of their hand because if they swallow it, it's a problem. And if you go after that thing, their grip is tighter and they will not let go. But if you give them something else that's shinier, they'll let go. Like, oh, okay, I need my hand to grab the next thing. I think that's actually, we stumbled on something that's a truth, that wanting something more than what you have at a sort of self-expression, how you use your life, is a key to moving on. So staying interested. My brother's a great example now. I love my brother. He's very different from me in how he's lived his life. But he and his wife, they raised two beautiful daughters who love them to pieces. And each daughter has two daughters who love everybody to pieces. It's just like this loveliest family. And eventually their house was too big and too much trouble to keep. So they moved into, I don't know if you would call it, it was sort of like a planned condo community for, I think it's over 55 people. So he's not living in a suburban setting. He's cheek by jowl. There's all these nice condos. And he's loving it. He goes out walking and he greets people and he has new friends and he's in book groups. And I just watch him, and he's chatty now. He was never chatty. He's just loving his life and giving to others. I think he serves on one of the committees. It's a rich life that he's built that's very different from his life working as a tax accountant at PricewaterhouseCoopers. So he's a good example for me of discovering that you can contribute so much more and discovering things he loves that he never did before because he didn't have the time. I don't know. Am I off topic?
No, we love it. We love it.
I think what you're talking about at some level is the struggle to find enough. And one of the things that really impacted me, and you found enough very early in your life. Your brother has found enough. Jackie, I think, has found enough. I have not necessarily found enough. I'm still struggling with that concept. And frugality is synonymous with enough. Frugality, actually, I learned a lot from the origins of the word you talked about in the book. Frug means virtue. Frux means fruit or value. Free means to enjoy and have the use of. And your fulfillment curve was sentinel for me. The sponsor of this episode is Abundo Wealth. We've talked about how helpful financial advice can be on the path to FI. Unfortunately, most of the industry is expensive and doesn't always have your best interests in mind. Our friends at Abundo Wealth are changing that. They don't sell any products. They teach you how to manage your own low-cost investments and provide expert advice. The service costs only $189 a month for ongoing one-on-one access to a financial planner. Abundo provides guidance to clients at all stages of the FI journey, helping you to clear about your goals and dreams and setting up the spending, saving, and investment plan to achieve them. And the best part is that everyone is welcome, even if you're starting from square one. Our listeners can get the best deal available for this awesome service. Normally, the first month costs $499 to get started. But if you sign up for your free intro meeting at abundowealth.com and mention Catching Up to FI, you can get that first month for just $189, a savings of over $300. That's abundowealth.com. What is your concept of enough? How did you come up with the fulfillment curve as an inverted U? And what should that mean, or what does that mean to our society, both individually enough and then in the larger context of enough?
Wow. That's not a small question, just to say.
Well, you can handle the
Bill's a deep guy there, isn't he?
Yeah, really. So first of all, I want to ask you, why, with all that you have in terms of satisfaction and contribution and material comfort, what's your trouble with the idea of enough?
We're not frugal in the true sense of the word, in the way you live it, and it requires a spend that is hard. We're still a little bit in the more is better, the 1 year syndrome, another million would make it easier. But I know that we could do it. You can live like a student, and I was probably happiest when I was a student at some level. That's not true exactly. Finding this podcast, finding Jackie, finding the friends in the fire movement has made me happier, and the community of the fire movement has made me happier than I've probably ever been in my life.
Yay.
So it's not fair. Finding you. I mean, literally finding you. But to come back to the question of enough in the micro and the macro, take our audience through the fulfillment curve.
Okay. So basically, it's what's called a heuristic tool. It's sort of like when you have a model and the model holds a lot of the meaning. And basically, we're demonstrating that more is not always better, but it's sometimes better, personally and also socially, developmentally. So basically, the fulfillment curve it generates a curve if you put pleasure and fulfillment on the vertical axis. Like, how much pleasure and fulfillment am I getting on the horizontal axis is money spent or stuff acquired. So it asks you to notice that early on in your life, you learn that more is better, whether it's a bottle, a blanket, some arms that comfort you when you're crying. You learn because we come out of the womb, I think we're the animal with the most vulnerability, dependency of any other animal. We come out unformed. Women could not birth a being who actually could survive on their own. You look at a fawn is up and suckling, a sheep, all of them are just, they're designed to be able to live on their own. We are not. So in that dependency period of life, we do require others, something outside of us, to keep us alive. We are incapable of meeting our needs. And so you learn that I need things from the outside to meet my needs, and I can't meet them by myself. So during the period of time when you're just trying to survive, more is better. It definitely is. There's no question about it. And the drive for more is your survival drive. If you didn't have a drive to get more, you would die. But that carries on into a period of time in your life when you have enough at a survival level. But then there's what I see it as is then you start to try to fit in with society. It's like you don't want to just survive. You want to go to school. You want to get books. You want to get a bicycle. You want to get a baseball bat. You want to get things so that you can participate in the life of the community. And so that's a bunch of needs that in Your Money, Your Life we call comforts, but I don't see it quite as comforts anymore. Where more still is better, but it takes a bigger chunk of something to satisfy that need. I mean, you might need to get a bicycle. There's a lot to getting a bicycle, much more than getting a blended apple, when you're little. So you're still operating under more is better. You're still acquiring things. And it is a period of time when you learn, yeah, right, I got myself an old beater car. Yeah, that's great. I got a Toyota Corolla used. I know that that's the lowest status car in the universe. So I hope either.
My mom drove a Toyota Corolla for 20 years.
That's the deal, is that they will live for 20 years, but people who can upgrade will sell off their Toyota Corollas to people who are just getting their first car. So you get a Toyota Corolla, but then you think, oh, I'd like a new car, and then you think, oh, well, I've got a new RAV4 or whatever.
She got a RAV4 after the Corolla, too.
Man, I'm right up. Yeah. And you think, no, I mean, I want to get a better car, a shinier car, a car with the top goes down, or I can do the mirrors from the inside, minor little things, but you will invest a lot of life energy into getting that. So you're doing more is better, but there's a certain point in the whole more is better where you're spending a lot more money for whatever it is, the Lexus, the Hummer. Don't tell me your mother got a Hummer.
No,
the Cybertruck, the Cyber.
God, yeah, or your electric car. Oh, no, I want I want to be a good person, so I'm not now going to invest a lot of money in an electric car, which, yes, we need to do the energy transition, but an electric car has got a lot of embodied earth in it, some of which requires us to take resources from countries that do not want to give it to us. So that's just a little aside. So there's a point at which you don't recognize that the whole formula of acquisition is not actually working. The amount of life energy you have to put into your Hummer, let's just use that as an example, is huge. You might buy it, like, what do you call it anymore, on time? You might finance it. And then you have a lot of future life energy that you have to keep paying off this Hummer that maybe for the first month, the first summer when you took it out on someplace off trail and got stuck in the mud or whatever, yeah, it was cool. But then you're paying it off forever. So that's the fulfillment curve. So it's that moment of consciousness where you recognize that the formula I was using for a high quality of life is no longer working for me. All it's doing is putting me into debt and having me invest ever more life energy in supporting my stuff. And in the fulfillment curve, then we start going down the other side. It's like, okay, but maybe if I spend money differently, maybe if I buy a different car, or like maybe if I get a graduate degree, there we go. I need a master's. Yeah, the master's. To get the job I want, I need a PhD. And you spent a lot of money for that education, and like maybe it works for a while, but then you got to get an advanced degree because you can't keep up. Oh, yeah, but now you realize, okay, fine, it's because of something that happened in my childhood where I need to go get some therapy to work on that, So it's like you're driving yourself further and further into requiring money for your life or putting yourself in debt where you don't recognize that you're not getting fulfillment from it. And it doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that you're following what's sometimes called a winning formula that isn't winning anymore. So we say that the peak of that graph that we've generated is called your enough point, when you have everything you want and need for a life you love, but nothing in excess. And it's not static. It's a constant relationship. It's a constant inquiry into, we need the bigger house, but do I really want to spend my life energy paying off that house? Yes, it's appealing. Yes, we would like a family room. Yes, we want all those things. But do we really want to spend our life energy to that degree to have those things? And is there some way that by spending differently, whether it's less or differently, we would have more fulfillment? So it requires self-knowledge. It requires you, it's actually a spiritual practice. Enoughness is a spiritual practice. It asks you to be aware of the flow of life energy through your life. It's not normative and it's not static. And I think it's sometimes perceived as right or wrong. My wonderful brother that I spoke about before, he wants to lavish on his wife and his kids and his grandkids. And he does that. And he doesn't. So his life costs him more than my life by a long shot. But there's fulfillment in everything about that. So that's enoughness. And it's, as I've been writing recently about coming of aging, it's a quest. It's like, okay, how much is enough status? How much is enough being the president of the club? And the question is a question about, can I meet the needs for belonging in a way that doesn't tax my life energy in such an intense way, or that has more emotional or spiritual reward? I loved the part of my life where I went to big meetings and conferences. I spoke at the United Nations once. That was like, whoa, like from my mouth to God's ears,
Oh my gosh.
So did it change the world? No, but like it felt like major. So I have still in me the part of me that remembers that, remembers being on Oprah, that remembers, I have part of me that remembers all that and wants it again. It's just part of me. Like I have lots of parts. But the a larger part of me wants this spiritual path that I'm on of relinquishing that which never doesn't fit anymore. It's not about Marie Kondo. It's not about materially going, does this bring me joy? Sorry, somebody loves Marie Kondo. But I mean, and her system definitely does require some looking at what brings you joy. So yeah, I don't think it's an easy question. It's like that's a simple heuristic device, the fulfillment curve, but that question is an ongoing, everyday question. How much is enough food? How much is enough breakfast? How much is enough caffeine? How much is enough being able to be conscious and stop before you've gone over that too muchness cliff? It's a practice, but it's a spiritual practice.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say, for the United Nations, those aren't things that cost you. It was because of who you are and the work that you're doing. Exactly. And that becomes so much more important than should I buy the Tesla or should I buy the Toyota? You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say that I've got a house full of junk because I've accumulated from the thrift store. But, now I'm in a shedding period of time. I mean, and if your community doesn't have a Buy Nothing group on Facebook, you should start one. There's I think it's national, maybe international, started on Bainbridge Island, where somebody started a little Facebook group where you could just post things that you were willing to give away and things that you needed. So we have Buy Nothing South Whidbey, and it's the most amazing thing. People are giving away. I mean, if they took the time to think about, this is worth $2,000. No, it's just fun, and it builds community. So I'm feeding a lot of stuff into that stream right now.
Well, it seems like in the coming of aging, if you're thinking about the next generation, it is a time of shedding. It is a time of limiting your stuff. I mean, I see it as a big gift if my parents organize their lives and get rid of the stuff that I'm not going to want. It's their stuff. And, organize your finances, organize your estate plan, organize these things that may have been messy in your life so that the next generation doesn't have to fix your problems.
Bingo. That's part of what I'm doing. I heard about somebody who had an estate that took half a day to deal with because they had so little, and every little thing was clear. Okay, this is the bank account, this is that. All debts were paid. It took nothing. I was like, I don't think I'm going to get that good, but think of the number of people who end up hating their parents because of the mess they left the kids. I don't want that. I want to feel connected, and that my life, the effort to make my life a blessing, continues. That's my legacy.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful. I mean, I don't know, everything that you've said about aging and your life's legacy and all those things, I haven't really heard in that context and the way that you talk about it. It's almost like something I look forward to. And we know especially as late starters, we know we're entering in that phase. Our parents could already be in that phase. So it's just kind of beautiful how you're talking about this next level of life, and you're impacting so many others, but also your own personal life and what you want it to look like. So.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting, consumption takes resources from the earth. You have to give them back. And in your estate plan, with your clarity and your direction, you're hopefully giving resources back to the earth. And don't...
Totally. And people with big estates, they want to keep it in the family. Their kids don't really necessarily want it. So basically, they spend a life taking out of the collective pot. And when they die, they just keep it to themselves. We're all taking out of the collective pot our entire lives, because where else does our body come from but from the earth? Where else does the stuff come from a collective effort? Even the tchotchkes I buy at the thrift store, it's like somebody made this. This metal came out of the body of the earth. This is not nothing. So the hoarding of resources is part of what ails us now. And it's almost like you're stupid if you leave money on the table. You're stupid if you give it away. There's a status in having more than the other person. So we've designed a game where selfishness rules, and down the generations, people are starving. And it's part about the tax advantages for the already wealthy, whatever you want to call that, the tax cut. As we said, in the 1950s, there was a graduated income tax. And above a certain point, you paid like 20% if you were at a certain level, and you more than that, and that money you paid 30% on, and the next chunk you paid 40% on. And it was all the way up to 90%, not of the entire income, but all your income over a certain fair amount. So that produced solidarity in a society where a rising tide lifted all boats. And I think sometimes manifestation follows consciousness. If you have a consciousness of selfishness, if you have a consciousness of solidarity, and your society has a consciousness of solidarity, everything works out differently. But if you have a consciousness of what I would call selfishness, because it's hoarding more than you will ever need, then it's part of a society that is cannibalizing itself, to be florid about it.
Well, we admire and find billionaires to be our heroes. We find more to be the model, when I think you should be.
Well, the thing is that, for example, in sort of preparing for my aging, I noticed that because the social support structures are not ample, it was very hard for me to know how much was enough to have stashed. And I didn't know how much life I would have. If I lived to 111 like your grandma, that's going to be a long time of supporting myself. And so you have to have some support system for living beyond your capacity to keep earning money for yourself. You have to have social support, Medicare, Medicaid, social services, or you have to have insurance or whatever. But it was, I'm still quite a saver, because it sort of fills the uncertainty gap for, like, who's going to be there? What will I need? I have no idea. Now, I'll tell you a story. I'm using my family here. My ex-husband lives in France. We're good friends. And they have a system. He's just developed a condition. And like France is like all over resources. Like he has groups and doctors and treatments and experimental treatments, and people will come to his home. I mean, he's like, the support he has there, he doesn't have to fear for anything. So he can let go. So it's an anathema to us, because if we pay more taxes, we don't know. Well, the grifters and crooks are going to just take it for themselves, and we're going to still be out in the sidewalk. So, yeah, it's just, we're stuck in something that's really not beautiful. It's anti-life, and we're all struggling with it. And I think that's sort of a deeper, sort of emotional, spiritual aspect of FIRE, is that intuition that I'm in a world that makes no sense. And if I want to make sense of my life, I'm going to have to take back the authority and dependency I've put on the systems that are getting eroded. So anyway, I mean, I don't want to go on a high horse anymore, but I mean,
we love it when you get on your high horse. Hey, Bill, I got my CFP credential a few years ago, but you have been talking about possibly getting yours, and you were so interested in that CFP level knowledge. Are you still interested in that?
Yeah, but I don't want the credentials. How do I do it, a little bit on the lighter version?
Well, I think I got just the thing for you. I got with my friends at the Boston Institute of Finance, and guess what? They have come up with a personal growth track curriculum that is for people that just want to expand their own knowledge. They don't need course credit, but they want that CFP level education. And it's going to be for a lot less than what you would normally pay for going for the CFP.
Well, do they have different programs? My schedule's a little off. Do I have to be live for classes, or how does it work?
I know you're a busy guy at the hospital all the time, but they have two options. They have self-paced courses that you can either take individual, or you can just take tax if you want, or they have the instructor-led courses. So probably you'd like the flexible one. But the good thing is that you can learn on the go. Their whole program is mobile friendly, and you could use your iPad, you can use your cell phone, but they make it super easy. So I think it might be just for you.
It sounds like it. I'll check it out.
Yeah, just check out bostonifi.com/personal-growth. We'll drop it in the show notes, but it could be something that will help you up your game. So I wonder, Vicki, because I know there's a lot of people that are fearful of aging, a lot of people that have negative thoughts about aging. So what would you say to those people?
Well, you're drenched in a society that is dismissive of aging and worships youth. So it's just one of those other things. My body is no longer a trading chit to get respect in the society that I live in. If people don't like, I mean, look at women. They lose their husbands. They look around and the older men are marrying younger women. So because, oh, I lost my waist, I lost my chin, I lost my I lost my beautiful red hair. It's like, it's terrible. It's being consigned to a hellhole, really. I mean, so I always go to context because, and that's part of what I'm trying to untangle now in Coming of Aging, which is on Substack, is not giving advice, but is challenging the assumptions. Like challenging the assumption that I'm going to spend the latter years of my life going back and forth to a doctor. Maybe, or maybe I have a choice about that. Maybe I have a choice about not treating something, or I want to be a choice about things. I don't want to be an effect of things. Or just like somebody who maybe breaks their hip when they're 90 and the doctor says, oh, we got to operate. Somebody, you can choose to not. It's like, give me some morphine and this is my time.
Well, it's important to know as a physician. I see this all the time, and I see so many different versions of aging, and we're not progressive with regards to quality of life and end of life at all. A hip fracture, it has a 50% mortality. With people don't realize that. They don't know that. You lose your mobility. When you lose your mobility, you lose your life.
Yeah, I've lost my mobility several times and I've gotten it fixed, but we always have a choice. I had a herniated disc and I couldn't walk. Friends back in the day when I lived in the woods, people carried me around on a plank. This and that and the other. And so we kept good humor about it, and in part because I was with a group of people that I really liked and we had fun. I've had 2 hip replacements, and each one of them was preceded by a fairly long time of disability, using a walker. And so you just have to maintain your quality of life differently. You need to, it's just like practicing frugality. How can I meet my needs differently? I'm not saying it's easy. And I think community or family are like crucial. But that sort of being adept at going like, okay, well, I can't walk. What else? What else can I do? I mean, here's an example from just this last week, 2 weeks, I guess. I live in this little community. I don't have a hearing problem because I'm sitting here on a Zoom call, right?
Yeah.
And I went to an audiologist and yes, you've lost this whole structure of your hearing. She gave me these fancy dancy hearing aids, and I can't stand them. So I don't wear them, and I know I'm supposed to. And I don't have to do it because I'm just in intimate conversation. It's just like there's no challenge to it. But a couple weeks ago, I was in a seminar in a hotel room with microphones that were inadequate. And it was like, oh my God, I can't hear. I mean, I can hear, but I have to sit in the front row and like, or I had to stand in the back because the presenter's voice was going through the heads if I was sitting down. So I had to like stand up to get it over. And I was like, and I could feel in myself, like, I'm giving up. I don't even want to listen to him. It's too hard. It's just taking too much out of me. I was like, you're not doing that, Vicki.
One of the biggest fears I think people have, well, I want to hear about your fears, is sensory deprivation and the impact it has on their lives as we lose our senses. But you talked about a fear you have, and it's one of the biggest health problems in our nation as we age. What's your biggest fear about aging?
Oh, dementia. Losing my mind. I mean, I don't think it's just mine. The terrible image. My first visit to a nursing home, I didn't know, but I'd gone in the back door. You know, you go in the front door, the reception area, and it's all very sweet and nice. And then you go specifically to a room. I went in the back door when the cleaning people were cleaning the rooms. And everybody was out in wheelchairs, mostly non-compos mentis, mostly not really responsive. And I had to walk that gauntlet, and that was emblazoned into my mind. I do not want to be sitting in a wheelchair with having lost my mind. It's an act of compassion to myself to think about that. Now, another experience I had where I was visiting somebody in a nursing home, and there were 2 beds in the room. The person I was visiting was lively, had pictures on the wall. It was like really herself. And in the other bed was a woman with very wispy hair who kept rising up off the pillow and like going, I was like, oh my God, that woman is just a total body of fear. She's just embodied fear. And so the idea of being old, blind, deaf, and not having my mind, but being depressed somehow, that's like, shoot me. So I don't know, really. You're not going to get any good answers from me about this because I'm working on that one. And part of how I work on it is a willingness to die at some point. It's like, okay, at some point I'm going to get a disease and I will not go to the hospital. I will not treat it. It's a way out. Give me morphine and off I go.
I think that's the right way, and I totally concur with your sentiments. So how would you feel about your life if you...
Well, if I was dead, I wouldn't feel anything. But, yeah, I mean, I've taken a renewed interest in theater recently. I was very into it in college, and then I took another track. And then recently, I was offered an opportunity to be in a play, and I accepted it. And it was like, whoa, I love this. And now I said, oh, no, I'm going to die. I want to fulfill on this passion. I want to write and I perform and participate, and like I want to be in the creative community of it. So I might have a little twinge, but I feel pretty good. I don't have my house clean enough, so I'd be a little sorry that somebody else.
And the one thing we always hear about is what would your epitaph be on your tombstone if you chose to have a tombstone and take up that way? What would you like to see there? Have you seen it? I mean, what would it be?
Yeah, I used to think about that. And one of my mottos came from either Helen Keller or some made up thing that Helen Keller said, but it's the quote, life is either a great adventure or it's nothing. So that would be, I'm not thinking about a message that's about me. I'm thinking about if somebody wanders by a tombstone, it would be a reminder for them of the opportunity of being alive, not like how cool I am.
Great.
But last year, I had the opportunity to spend a few days in a conservation burial cemetery, which basically what it is, it's a plot of land. This one is like in a thinned out forest where you can buy an area and be buried there. And the point is that you go into the ground and become part of nature. So you're not cutting down trees. You're not having forest lawns. You're just buried in and amongst the trees. And the first moment I came upon a mound that had just a couple little rocks around it and grass growing out of it. I thought, whoa, that's a human in there. And it was such a confrontation to not see a headstone, not have a name attached to whoever was dissolving underneath the earth. And then I realized, man, the body of this earth is made up of the bodies of those who've been before me. How many billions of people have died and gone into the earth? The earth is made of that. That was really pretty much a confrontation. And I thought about how difficult it would be to go into the earth without any indication I was here. And it helped me strip away another layer of ego. So I have a green burial site in the cemetery up the hill. And more people are occupying those sites as time goes on. And so I just want to it pleases me to think that my body is going to be there. And maybe I want a bench so people can come and talk to me in case there is a persistence of something that's associated with the body. And maybe a tree or maybe a plum tree. And I have a friend recently, one of my mentors who died, and she was cremated. We just went to the memorial, and we could all take a little jar that, like, you put salve in, and with some of her ashes in it and her name on it. So I have that on my altar. It's like I have Anne on my altar. And I thought, well, I'm going to go in the earth, but maybe before I die or after, I'll just tell my friends to cut my hair and give people little locks in a little jar if they want to have. Because for me, it's like it keeps her so close. And then my other big mentor, Hazel Henderson, I have
Hazel.
this stone, and it said loved and remembered. So I have Hazel on my desk. So mementos, I think, for the living that they can have in their home, those are pretty nice. So I didn't answer. I answered your question in my classic roundabout way.
That was beautiful.
It's all been beautiful, yeah. Jackie. I am moved by today's conversation.
So am I. And Vicki, she is a lifelong learner and a lifelong creator. So you're still creating so much great stuff. So can you tell us what you're working on now? How can people find you? Yeah.
Thank you, Jackie. I hope you just put that all over the show notes. Because
absolutely. Because it's some great stuff. And Bill and I have really been consuming it for the last couple of weeks because we were so excited to have this time with you. And it just took us through this transformation of our own. And I know our audience is going to really love it because you have to think about this phase of our lives because we spend all this time saving and investing for retirement, growing our money for what? Our older selves. So what happens when the older self is here? And that's what you talk a lot about. And to get a glimpse from Vicki Robin's perspective, like your lens is an amazing, positive, invigorating lens to have. So yeah, tell us what you're working on and where we can find you, because I think I definitely want more. I know our audience is going to want more and to stay connected with you.
Well, bless your heart.
You sound like one of my grandmother that passed away at 111. You sound like her.
I love that term. Well, bless your heart. I think it's just so beautiful. Yeah.
Very Southern.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes in the South it means screw you.
Yeah, I'm from South Carolina and Georgia, so I got that Southern. Yeah. We'd rather lie than be impolite.
Well, it's also there's the term in the South where I live, I appreciate you. And the tone of I appreciate you can mean a backstab or I truly appreciate you.
Yeah, like I disagree with you so thoroughly that if you disappeared and evaporated right now, I would be happy. I appreciate you. So anyway, I am blogging on a platform called Substack, and they can find me at Substack. And they look up either my name, Vicki Robin, or they look up Coming of Aging. There's a beautiful video that's done by a company in New Zealand that's recording people. It's called Reflections of Life. And there's a YouTube video there that is this my response to their questions. It's had 250,000 views by now. And it's really lovely. So that's on YouTube if you look up
Reflections of Life, you said?
Yeah, I posted it on my Substack, but as with all blogs, it disappeared into the past.
Definitely love to watch that for sure.
Yeah, so those are my main places. I do have a website, VickiRobin.com, that is a sort of a legacy site. I did a lot of blogging on there. But when I came onto coming of aging, I thought, wait, no, people expect you to talk about your money or life or Conversation Cafe or Blessing the Hands that Feed Us. They're not looking for this part of you. So I moved over, but I might post stuff back there. But anyway, those are my public facing.
Well, Vicki, you have so much more life to live.
Yeah, 111. We're going for it.
Yeah. You are a beacon of hope. I hope not necessarily in place, but moving, just like you.
Yeah, right. And I wish you the capacity, the joy of discovering how much is enough for you and liberating whatever life energy is still bound up in the more process. So
it's coming. It's coming in the coming of aging. Jackie, this has been awesome. Yeah. Any final thoughts for Vicki?
Just all the things that I've said. She's truly modest. So every time we sort of talk about how amazing she is and how much she's impacted so many people, especially in the fire community, she doesn't really want to hear it, but she's had a huge impact. And I'm just so grateful that you joined us today, Vicki. And this was truly the highlight of my day, week, month, year. So appreciate you.
Oh my God, that's a big one.
Well, I genuinely mean it when I say appreciate you, not the Southern connotation of it.
And I appreciate you too, Jackie.
I mean, I concur. I mean, meeting you and meeting all of our guests and meeting people at conferences, that's the lifeblood of the future for me. And it beats still my heart. And Vicki, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing all that you have done and continue to do. I hope the only thing better than talking to you through technology is meeting you in person. We are occasionally in the Seattle area where Paul Merriman hangs out and others.
Oh, right.
He's on Bainbridge Island, not too far away. So,
right. You know, well, it's very far because it's 2 ferries.
Okay.
And the ferry system is wonky. But yeah, as the crow flies, it's not far.
All right. So hopefully this is not the last time we talk, and this is just the first of many more times.
Well, thank you very much. And what I appreciate from this opportunity is that now I will have a conversation that embodies this moment's thinking. And so I'll have something that's fresh, and I will be sharing it widely. I appreciate this. I appreciate you, and bless your heart.
Well, our audience is late starters. We can't forget that. This is not a conversation for late starters alone, but we usually end with the question, do you have any advice for those in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who are late starters to this spiritual, soulful, and financial journey to freedom?
Yeah. Let's just leave it at your life is way, way bigger than money, financial system, anything. Pay attention to life itself and put the rest of it in service to whatever inkling you have of what you're here to do. There you go. That's a piece of advice.
All right. Well, thank you. Jackie, Vicki, Diana, Lee in the background. This has been fun, and we'll see you next week on Catching Up to FI.
So, Bill, as you know, we cannot do this show without our amazing staff and the people that help us put this on. So our social media is Diana Falk, our editor Fritz Bassard, and show notes are done by Sarah von Sternberg. We love them and they keep us going.
Yeah, I mean, this show wouldn't have the quality it has without our folks, our peeps. And we'd also like to give you a few calls to action for the show. We love our community and we hope you love us back. If you want to support the show and what we're doing, you can do that at Buy Me a Coffee, which is a platform that allows you to virtually say thank you if you get value from our content. The link is in the show notes, or you can head over to our website at catchinguptofi.com and click on the Support the Podcast tab at the top right. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Catching Up to FI. We would appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review so that our message can reach others.
While we are financial educators and I'm a financial professional that loves to teach, our content is for general education and information purposes only. We are not providing financial, legal, or tax advice. Always do your own research or consult a professional before making important decisions.
We'll see you next time on Catching Up to FI.